Hello, 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 hello. Fine, can we start? Can we talk about life? Yeah, how's life? Like, how did I ask? Hmm? How is life? Good. What did you all do yesterday? Studied or? You expect me to believe that? You actually studied yesterday? Yeah, good. Okay, so you continue studying, but what do you all want to do in life? Huh? Becoming a company secretary. Wow, he's breaking my heart here. Good, good. Become a company secretary. What else? Anyone wants to travel? Yeah, where do you want to go? Don't say to huh? Somewhere out of Coimbatore. Okay, travel only. Where do you want to go? She said, yes, ma'am, I want to travel. Like, okay, where do you want to go? Anywhere. You'll go outside and come. Okay, I'm joking. So, why I ask this is because genuinely, you all will have some goals for yourself. I want to be a company secretary. I want to travel. That's why I asked you all the example. The only problem is I don't have the paisa for it. Okay, it's very expensive. Yeah, you have to go to the US and all. They're asking you to sell one kidney only, I think. So, just to travel to the US, you need to keep some money in your bank account. What is that? Okay, yeah, very difficult. I can probably travel within India, but I'd like to travel abroad. Okay. Anyone beyond just travel, have fun? Any other goals you would like? I'd like to earn so much money. I love to I love to buy this. I want this car. I want that. It's all there, right? Okay. Now, this is life. Having the choice to be able to go and choose, yes, I want this. And you probably can. You can probably, if earning money is a goal in your life, definitely go ahead for it. If you want to do service to the people, you can do that. Okay. Do you think people in North Korea have this choice? Do you think women under the Taliban rule have this choice? Can they teach? Can they can they do any, like, I don't know, I'm guessing they can't do a lot of things. Okay. Can I ask them how is life? It's a little difficult as a question. Each and every one of us has a life. How we are living it is it's our choice only. But then what if while taking this class, one bus is constantly honking on that road, continuously for 3 hours straight he's honking? Or when you were studying for your school or anything, someone was just playing music constantly outside, or construction is constantly happening next to you. What will happen? Right? Or forget that, you just want to live in a decent house, clean house. You don't want to step out of your house and smell garbage, and you don't want it to be unclean. Correct or no? Or I think all of us have these goals. There are some basic things to life that we must have. Okay, so again, we're talking about law, so I'll stick to law points of view from now on, but think of this from that point of view. Okay, and that is where we're coming to your article number 21. Most important section, most important article, right to life and personal liberty. Okay, the sentence is very simple. Your sentence just goes on to say, no person. So no person can mean both citizen as well as non-citizens, foreigners. No person shall be deprived of his life, or, this is part 1, or personal liberty, part 2, except according to procedure established by law. Okay, this is part 3. So this fundamental right over here has been used by our judges. They've gone ahead and interpreted that word, right to life, and given it the most widest meaning possible. Okay, in 1950, when the Constitution came out, they said that life means what? Food, clothing, shelter. Is this life? Can I just give you rice, white rice, food? Or I'll just give you plain dal, uncooked dal. It's food only, no? Is it sufficient for us to live our life? Clothing. Clothes means we all grow from children to like an old age. We grow out of our small clothes and we need to buy new clothes. We all want to look nice. Okay, so we'll want to buy new clothes. I'm not just talking about you wanting to buy new clothes. Okay, having the right to clothes itself was one thing brought into this right to life. And then shelter. No person should be required to sleep outside. Okay, when I say sleep outside, I don't mean by choice. Without choice, you have nowhere to go. So initially, right to life meant only that. But then today, they've expanded that meaning massively. They said that life doesn't mean just living simply with nothing, no goals, nothing. It's having a respectable life, having a dignified life, having access to clean water, clean air, no noise pollution, having the right to, and remember I said our judiciary will find a way to interpret provisions. Okay, so in you all know the biggest slum in our country, the Dharavi slums in Bombay. Anyone ever taken a flight to Bombay? Okay, so when you land in Bombay, when that landing thing is happening, you will see the slums in front of you. It will go on for kilometers at end. Like I said, largest slums in India especially. Okay, and yeah, you can call it a slum, but there's a full economy going in there. They have their own, they produce food, they have their own tailors, schools, everything they have inside. But it's a slum and it's fully encroached land. And in one case law, even the Bombay Corporation, they came and they started encroaching, they started removing the encroachment. They started taking it away. And that time one social worker, her name was Olga Tellis. She came in and she said that no, you're not allowed to remove this encroachment. Why? Is because the shops that you're bulldozing down is where these people live, like carry on their business to live their life. So if you break it down, they can't do their business, and then where will they earn their money to live their life? And believe it or not, under Article 21, the court actually gave that protection. They said that if you and I need to live our life, we need things. We need to buy food, we need clothes, we need to buy a home. How will we do that? Only if we have money. How will we get that money? You can go work, you can do your own business, you can do something. Now, someone comes and tells you you can never work in your life. You can never do a business in your life. How are you going to live your life? Right? So this right to life was given the widest possible interpretation under Article 21. And we are not going to be looking at all the case laws, okay? That will go on for the next 6 months itself, is what I have to tell you. But they spoke about it. They even included the right to adopt a child into the right to life. Because after you grow to one stage, maybe you and I don't really understand it right now, but when you grow beyond a certain an age, you will want to have your own children. And when you can't have your own child, you may want to adopt. They even brought that under your right to life. And that is the case law that you see over here. They said that the right of a couple to adopt a son is a constitutional right guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. Okay. I won't concentrate a lot on this part, on the right to life. We'll go to the next one. No person shall be deprived of his personal liberty. What do you mean by personal liberty? Can anyone tell me what liberty means? Freedom. Liberty means freedom. Personal liberty. That is your personal freedom. Today in the morning, if you want to wake up at 4 a.m. or if you want to wake up at 11 a.m., that is your personal freedom. Right? If you wish to travel today to another state, that's your freedom. So can you see, remember in the beginning I told you golden triangle, Article 14, 19, 21. And what is Article 19? Fundamental freedoms. And here you're talking about a freedom only, a personal freedom. So that is where you see a link. Now coming back, this right to personal liberty, we look at it from 2 points of view. One is when there was technology, one when there was no technology. First we will start with when there was no technology. Here mostly it has to do with the police. When the police wants to get information or investigate you, they will follow you for the rest of your life. And when I say follow you, they'll be everywhere. The morning you get up and you go outside your house, they'll be standing there. And not in uniform and in a police car. There'll be 2 people standing there, there'll be 1 person standing here, and they'll just be watching you. Then you'll go to your work, they'll be standing outside. Then they'll be standing outside your child's school. They'll be standing outside your wife or your spouse's workplace. Then they'll come and harass your parents. Okay, this was very common. And in some worst case scenarios, it was very, very extreme also. They'll simply come and then they'll push you. They won't hurt you, but then they will make you feel like you will never have privacy in your life. And at one point, someone went to court of law, and the court said that this is a direct violation of your right to personal liberty. Just imagine if someone is constantly watching you. Do you have freedom? Someone is just coming and standing in front of you and telling you, do this, do that, do this, do that. You don't have freedom. And that is what came up for discussion in this case law, Karak Singh versus State of UP. Okay, here they said that whether they challenged the police regulations itself. Okay, where they said that the police was authorized to conduct domiciliary visits. Domicile means nothing other than come to your home and question you. We know of this. Police have certain powers to enter to investigate. But can they simply just enter your home? Can they walk in whenever they feel like it and say, I'm investigating? They actually should not be allowed to do that. These police regulations was authorizing that. So they were checking, is this valid? And then the court eventually said that this was an invasion on part of the police, and it was violating the freedom of within your own house. So unless there was a proper reason for them to come into your house whenever, in the sense that you are accused, you have that evidence in your hand, they should not be allowed to enter your house whenever they feel like. Now this is at a time when no technology. After technology has come in, tell me, do you think you have privacy? How many of you have Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, any other social media that I'm not aware of? Yes. Have you heard of the story? They'll say there's a zookeeper. There's this guy, a zookeeper, and he put out I think some of you may know the story, okay. He put out a thing saying the zoo is open, tickets are only 500 rupees. Nobody went. And he brought it down to 100 rupees, 50, 20, nobody came. Finally, he said free entry. And hundreds and hundreds of people are walking into the zoo. Then he locked the zoo behind them. And now he said, pay 500 if you want to leave. The moral of the story is, when something is free, you are the product. Okay, and I'll say the same thing about social media. I don't know how much you all know about it. Don't worry, even I use social media. Okay, I'm not some saint over here. I just don't have the processing power to have all three things. But I have Instagram with me. I can't get over YouTube. Even we get addicted to it. Does your finger keep scrolling? There are days when my battery percentage was 100%. Suddenly I'm like, when did it become 12%? This is the problem with social media. And there are days where I actually broke my phone, not this phone. I broke my phone and I didn't fix it for 6 months. I was just without my phone. I don't know how many of you all can do it, but I went mad. Okay, and that is the problem with social media today. Sadly, your data is being used by people. Have you ever done this? Just open your phone and ask something. Don't type it. Don't put it into Chrome. Don't do anything like that. I guarantee you your answer will come to you in 2 days. Okay, it's because your algorithms are designed that way. It's designed to give you the best products, the most targeted advertisements. But who has this information? What do they do with this information? Privacy? Do you have privacy? None of us have privacy in today's world. Okay, unless, like me, you forget to fix your phone, you purposely break it, and that's all. Now, the problem is, our government now started coming and saying, I need information. How did they say I want information? Aadhaar. What is Aadhaar? You've been given a 12-digit number. 12-digit or 9-digit number? 12-digit number. You are now a number. Your transactions, your debit, your credit, your properties, your bank accounts, everything under the sun, they have the information now. Now suddenly, now tell me, do you have privacy? So can you see how the same personal liberty, no person shall be deprived of personal liberty, is also nothing other than privacy. And this is my personal opinion. Slowly and legally, they are taking away our privacy. They're already doing it. Okay? I don't know how many of you all know about this, but one day India woke up, opened their phone, and turns out the Aadhaar ka customer care number was automatically inserted into your phone. Android users. That means they already have access to all your phones. They inserted a contact number without you even realizing about it. And then the whole country went up. How could you do this? But they did it. This came up for discussion in courts. And it's not part of your portion, so I'm not going into a lot of detail. But interestingly here, the court didn't come out and say there's a violation of your Article 21. They said that, yes, it may be violating Article 21, but Aadhaar is also needed. It's required by our country. So we need to have a proper balance between the two. So what the Supreme Court said was, they told the government, get the best possible security systems to ensure that the data you're collecting is safe. Okay, and have you heard about the KYC, where you have to go and put your fingerprint and you have to scan. Now you'll have to constantly do a KYC with banks. Okay, for that purpose they said it's necessary. Okay, but I don't know how many of you all know about this. All of you all have your Aadhaar cards. Did you all know you all can lock your Aadhaar card? You said something? Oh, sorry. XX number will be hidden. No, I'm talking about if someone tries to use your fingerprint, or someone tries to, because you can access Aadhaar through OTP. And that's a very insecure way of getting Aadhaar verification. If you lock your Aadhaar, they can send as many OTPs as they like, but since your Aadhaar is locked, you cannot actually log in. I'll probably show it you in the end of the class. Always lock it. When it's necessary or needed, when you're doing a KYC or when you're doing something where it's really needed, that time you can go and unlock it. So these requirements came in after the court came and said Aadhaar is valid. but make sure there are proper safeguards in place. And they gave a very detailed judgment about that. So this is your no person shall be deprived of personal liberty. This Aadhaar is an example where, yes, it is actually infringing Article 21, but it was allowed to exist as a law because it was a requirement of that time. Many other laws, like I told you, right, now income tax officials are going to have access to your emails, chats, or social media, and they will be able to determine if you have any undisclosed income. That is a massive violation of privacy. I don't even know how they're going to implement it. And if they implement it and nothing happens, something's seriously wrong in our country. Okay, so we'll see how it's going to work out, and we'll see what reasoning they're about to give. Because I don't see this as a necessity. You can't give IT, like income tax department, these kind of powers. Right? So, why am I talking about Article 21 so much? It's very important. The third part of this is, no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. So, what do you mean by procedure established by law? Okay, death penalty, exactly. Who gives the death penalty? The courts. Okay, Supreme Court has a power, but mostly it's given by Sessions Court and High Court also. So I call it as the court. How does the court have the power to take away your life, but not another person? At the end of the day, it's murder. You are taking away the life of one person. Just because the court is giving you the death penalty, how is it okay? But if someone commits murder, how is that wrong? Okay? Morally, both are wrong only. You will never find a judge casually giving out death penalty. And death penalty is also given only in what you call as the rarest of rare cases. If it is a common crime, they will just give maximum punishment for it. But if the crime was so bad, so immorally wrong, so impossible to even think about it, they'll give death sentence. And it was very rarely given until the Nirbhaya case happened, where they sentenced 7 people to death sentence. And that also they won't so easily give it. They'll give it, they went on appeal, and appeal after that, they went on review, revision, so many remedies they tried taking, and then finally they gave the death penalty. Why? Why is that allowed? Because of procedure established by law. So what is the procedure established by law? You have committed an offense, you will first be arrested. Then as per Article 22 and your criminal laws, be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours. After that, a charge sheet will be filed against you. You will be taken through a trial. Evidence will have to be given against you. That evidence should prove that you committed the crime. We can't have a possibility, or he probably entered this building, probably committed this murder and left. No. He only committed this murder, or she only did this offense. And then only as a final judgment, they can give a death sentence. Correct? This is what you call as through procedure established by law. Same thing, if they're taking away your privacy, it should only be done through a procedure established by law. So is Aadhaar coming in violating your privacy? Yes. But how are they collecting Aadhaar? There are certain rules and regulations to be followed. If those rules and regulations are not followed, then there's a violation of this article. Okay. For that, we'll just come down to this. What are the requirements? What do you mean by procedure established by law? They're saying that the conditions required are, first, there must be a law. There must be a law passed by legislature. So it's not some random rule that someone is just coming and giving out. And more importantly, it must take away a person's life or personal liberty. Okay. Then that law must be a valid law. We'll always assume that every law is valid, but what if the court came and said, no, this law is invalid? Then you can't go ahead and continue with that law. And then the procedure must be strictly followed. You cannot arrest a person and bring him before the magistrate after 4 months. That's a procedural violation. Okay, literally many people get away with offenses simply because the procedure for their arrest was not done properly. They would have been arrested, taken to the magistrate after 3 days, after 72 hours, after 1 week, and then some nonsense explanations will be given. That is a violation of procedure established by law. Then can you impose death penalty on him? You can't. So that is the objective of this Article 21. So mostly if you see Article 21, it's also a criminal law protection. Mainly when you're being arrested, you can take the protection of this article. Is it easy to understand it from these 3 points of view? No person shall be deprived of life, of personal liberty, except according to procedure established by law. Okay, we've done till Article 21. So we've done Article 14, 19 and 21. Now I'll explain to you why they are all interconnected. Article 14, yes, there is the equality part that we studied about. That's one thing. But the second thing we also studied about was what? Arbitrariness is the antithesis of equality. Correct? What is arbitrariness? Anything which is not reasonable, not clear, vague. Fine? Next, you have Article 19. What is Article 19? Your fundamental freedoms. Fundamental freedoms are subjected to what? Reasonable restrictions. Correct? What is the opposite of reasonable? Unreasonable, but arbitrary. Yes? So if there is any unreasonable restriction, isn't it hitting Article 14 also? It's hitting Article 19 as well as Article 14, because anything which is not reasonable is arbitrary. Okay, so this is why Article 14 and 19 are usually interconnected. Then Article 21. What did we just see in Article 21? We saw the thing of personal liberty. So this is what? This is nothing other than freedoms, right? So if your freedom is being taken away, it should be reasonable in nature. And again, what is the opposite of reasonable? Arbitrary. It's again connecting to your Article 19 and 14. So many times when a law is passed, it might affect all 3 articles. It might be violative of Article 14, Article 19 as well as Article 21. Usually it's interconnected and it can be read together. Now, this we saw personal liberty, we saw life, but we also saw what? The procedure established by law. Correct? Now, this procedure itself can be reasonable, it can be unreasonable. Procedure means what? Do it this way. So I'll tell you about one law, okay? I don't know how it existed in our country for this long, but it did. This was the law governing black money. The law came and said black money is bad, but it never provided a procedure on how to prevent that black money. What should we do? Should we go confiscate it? Who should be allowed to confiscate it? Once it's confiscated, what should you do? What are the punishments? Nothing was provided. So you have a law that says yes, it's illegal, but how do you actually make sure that how do you carry out the procedure for it? Correct? If that is not there, then there's no purpose to that law. Similarly, what if they said that if a person is being arrested, okay, if they simply said, if the police believes that person is guilty, he can shoot him. We can have a law like that also. But is that a reasonable procedure? Is that a valid procedure? No. So even your procedures can be reasonable or unreasonable. And we can never have any kind of unreasonable laws. Because why? Anything which is not reasonable is arbitrary, and arbitrary automatically strikes at Article 14. And in line with this procedure part of it, there is one case law. So I'm just moving up. Your case of Bachan Singh versus State of Punjab. Read this with me. The question is, a law depriving a person of life or personal liberty must be a valid law and must strictly follow the procedure laid down under the law. If so, can the procedure established by law impose unfair, oppressive or arbitrary procedures? What is the answer to that? Obviously, the answer is no. Even your procedure must be proper. Even your procedure must be clear, it must be reasonable. You can't have arbitrary, oppressive procedures. Fine? Are you all understanding this so far? Any doubts until now? Any questions? Article 21A. Right to education. This was brought in by an amendment, and this amendment states what? Free and compulsory education to which children? Between the ages of 6 to 14 years of age. Sadly not for you and me. Even though we are studying, we don't get free and compulsory education. Now, I'm saying for this course. This is to help students, children, go and get some form of education. Okay. In line with this, we have multiple case laws. We have 3 different case laws. Okay. Environmental and Consumer Protection Foundation versus Delhi administration. Here they said that you can't just simply say free and compulsory education. The schools must have qualified teachers. You must actually have a school. You can't just say education and then not provide the infrastructure for it. So then the court came and said, it's compulsory that schools must have basic infrastructure and qualified teachers. So when I was in college, we were required to do something known as legal aid. We have to go to very far off towns. Many people, they stay in the towns itself. They don't actually have access to come out. And one such town where we went, we had to stay in the school. So when we were told, oh, there's a school, what do you think? It's a school, it will have at least 10 classrooms, there'll be a office, etc., etc. It was a 2-room building. It was 2 rooms, one on this side, one on this side. And that was the classroom. Did they actually have teachers? Did they have anything going on in there? Apparently not, because it looks like they opened up the building only after we went over there. So this is the problem. You can say what you want. You can say equality. You can say personal freedom. You can say all of that. But is it actually being implemented? And here's where our courts came in. And they said, I am going to oversee this taking place. But what actually helped was RTI Act. They started asking questions. Where are the schools? How many teachers are there? What is the budget for implementing Article 21A? These kind of questions started coming up. Okay, and then in this case law, State of Tamil Nadu versus K. Shyam Sundar, they said it's not enough to simply give education. You must give quality education. Finally, when the student studies and comes out, they should be equipped to deal with the world. And that was what was the thing. And obviously without any discrimination of economic, social and cultural backgrounds. This is a huge problem. Teachers will be like, you are beneath my status. Or the headmaster itself will come and say, what you think you can grow up in life. And in many small towns and all, you can't do anything about it. How do you implement it? It's a matter of who takes action like this only. Okay, and lastly, you have the Fahima Shaheen RK versus State of Kerala. Here, education has made a huge shift in the last 4 years. Everything has become online. So you and I have access to Wi-Fi. You and I have access to mobile phones or a tab or a computer to study. Don't you think even everyone should be given the same access? They should be given right to internet first, if they're able to watch those videos to study. The infrastructure, they should have public Wi-Fi, they should have access to laptops, etc. That was held over here. The right to have internet has now become part of your right to education. So you'll notice in a lot of schools now they've started giving free laptops, free computers, free Wi-Fi. In fact, now I think if you stand at many bus stands, you get free Wi-Fi. I don't know where and all it is implemented, but they've started doing it. Okay, so guys, this is your provision with respect to right to education. I'm not going into too much detail over here. Article 23 and 24. Article 23 is also known as prohibition of trafficking human beings and forced labor. So, is slavery allowed? No chance. Forced labor allowed. Should you be forced to work for free? Yes, ma'am, I'm going for an internship and they're not giving me any money. Sorry, that's an exception. Okay, because your internships are usually 1 month maximum. Short periods, that's allowed. Okay. So, generally when they say forced labor, you've heard of stories, right, where children will be working in factories, people will be working in factories without any money. Back when the zamindari system was there, you know why that system was so bad? The zamindar would say pay rent. Okay, and just in today's scenario, I'll give you some figures. They'll put a rent of equivalent to 2 lakh rupees. Can you pay 2 lakh rupees as rent every month? No. So what will the zamindar say? Send your child to work for me. He'll work for me for the rest of his life. And it won't stop with that child. After that child has another child, they'll say that child has to continue on this debt. You didn't pay me my rent, now you pay me with labor. This is a very common system, very, very common. Such things stand abolished. You're not allowed to engage in these kind of activities. And obviously, you cannot employ children, mostly in factories. Shall we take just take 5-10 minutes? Go through all of the fundamental rights that we have studied so far. Article 12 till your article number 24. Guys, do you all have Article 33, 34 and 35 in your textbook? Check and tell me. 33, 34 and 35. It's there? Okay, then we'll just finish these three alone and then I'll let you all do a reading. I am not doing Article 32 today. We'll do that tomorrow because it's a slightly bigger topic. Okay. We have Articles 33 to 35. They are what we call as supplementary provisions. Very specific to some scenarios. We'll just go through it. Article 33 is what I will call as the law relating to military. Who is our military? Army, Navy, Air Force, CRPF, RAF, all of them, the black cats, everyone. What are they exactly? They are there for the security of our country. Okay. Aren't they also citizens? Don't they also have right to life? Don't they also have fundamental rights? But can we have a soldier standing at our border and saying, I have the right to life, I'm sorry, I'm not going to fight? Little problematic. So don't you think the rules relating to our military should be slightly different? We actually can't, we have to tell them, go give up your life, because it's a possibility. If they're deployed in very sensitive regions, there is a chance they'll get hurt. Okay? Such kind of rights is only there with the parliament. So what parliament has done is they've passed the Army Act, the Air Force Act, the Navy Act, and these people will be governed by their respective rules. So in a way, that's why you have military members living in separate bases. Like you'll have, obviously you'll have Navy living nearer to their ports, okay, or near the sea regions, but then you'll have Army members, you'll have Air Force members in separate parts. And in some places, they won't allow the family members to go over there, because there are very different rules over there, right? That is your Article 33. Parliament can restrict or abrogate, that means take away the fundamental rights in relation to armed forces, paramilitary, police and analogous forces. This includes all your CRPF, RAF, all of the, we call them as paramilitary forces. Article 34 is what we call as a martial law. Have you all heard of martial law? Yes? No, that's martial arts. No, this relates directly to military. Okay, that's different. This is relating to the military. They come and take over the running of the country. When the military comes and takes over the work of the president, the parliament, etc., they won't take it over simply, okay? I'm not saying for that reason, but when there is war, okay, that time a lot of our rights get taken away, right? That time the military rule will be in effect. But actually in India, we don't recognize such thing called martial law. But in Pakistan, what do you think is happening? The military is only running that entire country. They can have their elections, they can do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, their military is only running the country. Towards the African regions, I don't know which country, almost like 2 years ago, the military came and took over the country itself. They deposed the existing rulers and existing political party and all of that, and the military took over. We don't recognize that, okay? But whatever happens, there will be some conflict, say with Pakistan or China, or some issue will come up. That time, it will be necessary for our military to come and take over some properties. They might come take over your house, or they might close off an entire area. They're allowed to do that. But the problem is also that it's very likely to get bombed. Okay, I've met some army people and I've heard some stories from them. And from what from what this officer told me, she was like, I went that side and I came back and the building I was in was gone. Conflict areas, this will happen. Okay. What if there was an owner of that property? Someone would have owned that property, right? But they were asked to leave because of the conflict. Now, after the conflict, there's no property there. So what about that person's property? What about his belongings? So what this provision is saying is that the state will give you some compensation. If there was any damage to your property or to certain belongings or things, the state will try to give you some compensation. And that is allowed by Article 34. So in case of martial law, in case where the military has to step in, that time any damage that takes place, the government will indemnify. That means on behalf of the military, they will pay you out some compensation. And lastly, we have Article 35. Only Parliament has the power to take away your fundamental rights. Not State Legislative Assembly, not your police commissioner, not your judges, no one. If anyone has to take away some fundamental rights, say for example Aadhaar. In Aadhaar, they're violating your right to personal liberty. Who can pass such a law? Only Parliament can pass a law. Not Tamil Nadu State Legislative Assembly, not Kerala Assembly, no. Okay, so Parliament can restrict fundamental rights and not the state legislature. So guys, Article 33 is for military alone. The Parliament can take away their fundamental rights. Article 34 is state will indemnify you for actions done by the military. And 35 is only Parliament can take away your fundamental rights and not anybody else. So that's all for today. Guys, now you've finished doing, just go through all of your fundamental rights because we've finished all of it except Article 32.